In this section, we will discuss sport and the intersection with new media. New media really is the extension of other existing media that we've used in the past and other media that we have discussed and will discuss. However, it takes a new form. What we're still looking at this idea of extending after that 25-year relationship between sport management and television. We're still working through these issues between exclusive content, what magazines can have and what the traditional news media has, magazines, newspapers, television, and this invention of everyone on the internet being an expert and now the ability of having a bullhorn to express their opinions and perhaps facts that may or may not be confirmed. So what is new media? It really is this new idea that the form of the deliverable from a sport organization to a potential fan is going to be different. And also with the new media aspects, we're looking at a social media, and social media really is this idea of fan to fan or person to person that we'll look into. Certainly, we're looking at many issues with new media, especially with telecasts. We had this issue with the Olympics where many people could post online or rebroadcast or restream events that were online that were telecast in one location, but in a different market, maybe it was being held for prime time viewing, and this would be a violation of some exclusive rights. So we're really looking at this idea of real-time deliverables that as sport managers we need to be aware of and potentially have a difficulty with. So what is new about new media? It really is this idea that it's computer generated, and now even more than computers, it's the ability to have smartphones and have connection to basically the world at any point wherever you are. Computer processing of information has really generated the characteristics of this new media. Certainly, the speeds that the computers and the cell phones have and the amount of memory that they're able to generate certainly is allowed to hold this type of technology and really deliver what we see now in terms of content. They television networks have connectivity with all of the persons, and even just your generation. Think about the connectivity issues that we've had before. You'd have to have some sort of dial-up and you'd have to be physically connected to this internet. And now through Wi-Fi areas and certainly through general data plans, you're able to utilize this virtually anywhere that you are in the world. The computers certainly allow us to have databases and they're able to digitize the content. Certainly when you think back using those dial-ups, the amount of information, the bandwidth that it took certainly was extensive. Now we're looking at generating games live on video. We can stream it without virtually any interruptions whatsoever. So again, we're looking at what is this idea of new media. In the past, we had this idea of an interpersonal or a one-to-one medium, maybe a telephone, maybe a person-to-person, or a mass medium, which would be a one-to-many, which would be like a television or a newspaper where one person's communicating to a lot of people. This idea of new medium has really created a third mechanism where it's a many-to-many. Think of a social room or a blog or a chat room where you have many people in there. You can talk to many people. It allows us for basically two-way mass media. It's not just one direction from the originator to the people, but it really goes back and forth. And again, the use of technology is a prerequisite for this and really has generated and driven this type of ideals. But what do we have control? We don't have much in terms of the message, but we do have a hyper interactivity that we're allowed to. A little bit of information where we came from. First, we had the internet connection, the dial-up, and then we had a 2G mobile phone, and certainly we went through broadband, and in 2001, that was 5% of the total internet connections. In 2012, we had over 90%, so we saw growth in 10 years of almost 100% of everyone had broadband connection. We have now 4G is very common. in terms of different types of speed that we're able to have this wireless broadband, and certainly the technology is getting faster and faster, which allows us to have more and more content, which allows us to develop more aspects. The key characteristics of this new media, this many-to-many areas, this idea of interactivity. Interactivity really allows people to toggle between being senders and receivers, that they are able to engage into the communication process at both levels. And in these construct with our components of interactivity, you have control, you have responsiveness, you have real-time interaction, you're connected, and you're allowed to personalize it or customize your experience moving forward. We look at control over the content. In a traditional media, the originator had complete control. They had the ability to say when and where and what am I going to say, and how am I going to say it? How is it going to be presented? With new media, we really don't have any of that control anymore. That once it gets out there, fans, critics, commentaries, everyone can talk about their impressions on the story and make their own criticism of it or presentation of it. It's hard to censor the content, even if it's correct or even if it's incorrect. In terms of distribution, now we're able to, from a sport organization side, is to eliminate the middleman. We don't need to have, and we're not dependent upon the media that we once were to get a story out. We can deliver it directly. We can see this very easily in terms of the growth of athlete as celebrity, that before there were many different barriers that athletes had to communicate directly to the audience. It'd have to go through mainly through PR directors and the team, and then through the media itself. Now we have direct athlete to fan discussions, whether it's via Facebook or Twitter or some other platform. We're looking at this idea of there's no middleman anymore. It's easy to get information out. Other interesting aspects with new media that it creates league-owned outlets. We now can look at the fact that we can stream games and content through a team or league-owned site, and we don't necessarily have to go through a traditional media anymore. So the money that we are saving, we can generate that back into profits. We look at the idea that the internet really is available virtually to everyone, certainly in the developed world and many of the third worlds as well. Why do people use the internet? It provides information about our business and our products. It provides sport organizations the ability to get information out, ticket information, parking, game time decisions, any promotions. The internet allows for purchases of products and delivery via mail, such like tickets. Generating tickets online was certainly a boom for all sorts of sport organizations and other media organizations. Certainly in my generation, as old as this is, the box office at the very beginning was the only place you could buy a ticket. So if you want a ticket to a game or if you want a ticket to a concert, you had to drive to the arena, wait out line for the box office and get a ticket. Then Ticketmaster came in, and what Ticketmaster originally was, they would have little box offices either at record stores or at the mall, and when tickets would go on sale, you could go to these Ticketmaster outlets. So it's a little box office. Each city may have 5 or 10 of them. Certainly a lot easier and more convenient than going to the original box office. Then Ticketmaster went on the telephone. So now anywhere that you had a telephone, you could pick up, call in an 800 number. Usually you'd have to wait your line and it would take a while, and you could buy your tickets. Now we're looking from one box office to maybe 10 Ticketmaster locations everywhere there's a phone. And then we went online, and now we have apps. So everyone that has a cell phone can buy a ticket now. It's certainly extraordinary over maybe a 30-year period or a 40-year period here of going from one location, one distribution point to virtually unlimited. Every person that wants to buy a ticket virtually has the ability to buy a ticket whenever they feel convenient. Internet also allows transactions prior to physical delivery of a product. I can get the ticket right on my phone now. So we look at different aspects of this. With new media marketing, we can look at e-commerce and online advertising, as well as develop online communities and fan forums, as well as fantasy league and competitions and that sort of thing. So e-commerce, from both a business to consumer as well as a consumer to consumer. Think of all the used sporting equipment that's online through Craigslist and other locations that you can sell other equipment from consumer to consumer. Certainly the secondary ticket market grew out of this from a consumer to consumer where you're buying and selling already sold tickets. From a sport marketer perspective, we certainly look at this idea, are the delivery systems in such a manner that we feel confident in them? Are the paying and the payment methods, are they private and secure? We can do online advertising on our websites and our team sites and generate original content and provide additional inventory for our sponsors so they can connect to our fans in another way that they're looking for their information. We look at online communities and fan forums, a way that we can create and develop our fans in a manner that is really not common in many other ways. We can look at based on interest or running for them or a team based, the New York Yankees, or maybe a player specific, a Joe Montana or Tom Brady specific that we can do that. So on the internet, we have this communication that's near instantaneous, and we can toggle back and forth between sender and receiver and develop these communities. In fact, many people who are on there develop a persona, and they know people through the online discussions in a way that they would never meet each other otherwise. For a marketer, it gives us an opportunity to collect data on our consumers. We can go into these forums and ask questions, either upfront about it, or we can just pose as another poster and commentator and find out information that people think about our product, our parking, our games, our offerings, and find out what people are really thinking. We can subtly look at price sensitivity and look at the secondary market and see what real market there is for the price of our tickets. If we notice on the secondary market that prices always go up by 10%, we can raise our prices by 5 or 10% and still not have people, discount it because they're paying that to somebody else. So we look at this idea of online community and fan forum. We can look at it for one-way communication from a marketer to a consumer, much like a traditional media we had. One-way consumer from one-way communication from a consumer to a marketer. We have that with different websites where people buy products or buy tickets can send us an email. They can ask us a question and we can respond to it. A two-way communication, consumer to consumer, or two-way between consumer and marketer. So we have all these different ways that we elicit and create communication amongst our fans. An example is this Cricinfo, a website that has 20 million users talking about a single sport, cricket, which is just amazing that if you're developing a sport and you have 20 million consumers, you can regularly talk to them and find things out about them and sell them more stuff as you move forward. More online new media aspects, this idea of fantasy leagues and competition. Certainly a new paradigm of introducing fans to sport. And we're seeing, and research suggests this, that the fan avidity of this generation is much lower than previous generations. Perhaps it's because of fantasy sport leagues, this idea that the younger generation growing up with rotisserie leagues may have less of an influence or an impact aspect of their favorite team winning or losing, as long as their created team does well. It's okay that the New England Patriots beat my team. I have Tom Brady, so we won, and that's what's really important. So we're seeing perhaps long term that these fantasy sport leagues may make it difficult for us to keep that fan avidity at a certain level in order to sell season tickets. We have as opposed to other aspects, in addition to fantasy sport leagues, additional sponsors, additional ways of advertising, connecting into it. Certainly 5 different types of participants: casual players, skilled players, thrill seekers, trash talkers, informatives. So we're looking at this idea of why fantasy sport leagues are important and why people participate. Mainly entertainment, escape, and social interactive. Similar reasons why people consume sport at the stadium or even at home. So it's another way to consume sport at one emotional level, but a different paradigm in terms of a financial level. We can also develop specific communications to our fans. We can now promote and market many smaller events or local events and deliver a lot of information. The event information template, EIT, talks about, has a number of different things that should be important and on a website or on an app in order to deliver information to our consumer who wants to come to the game. How to buy tickets, where is the venue, with a map and instructions on how to take maybe public transportation and highways and parking. Different types of shopping locations, where can you buy tickets, places that you can stay overnight if you're coming from out of town, the event schedule itself, local attractions, which you can add on other businesses, again, for a little bit of revenue from that, entertainment opportunities, travel costs, public transportation, food and concession information, location of the event, parking, safety, security measures, weather forecasts, traffic conditions. All of that is certainly information that consumers would want to go to an event, and it's something we can very easily create and update, virtually at a moment's notice. So the bottom line, new media enhances the overall experience for fans and leads to more favorable attitudes towards the event. It increases consumer behavioral intention towards the event, and we can find ways to monetize this. How do we find ways to create revenue streams? A lot of typical social media platforms that we're looking at in terms of Twitter and Facebook, and really stand alone as communication pieces, and we really haven't cracked that nut how to create monetary aspects of it. Sure, we can sell tickets through it, but that's really just transferring from one area to another, transferring the box office or online to another online retailer. But certainly, as we're looking at this in terms of revenue generations, it's a way for us to connect and to find different ways to deliver products to our fans and to our consumers. What we want to look at and think about very much through the new media and the social media aspect, we want to go beyond just social media is a great way to communicate to the fans. That's too easy to say. It's low cost. We know that. 2 issues with that. One, every platform in social media delivers something different for us. How we use YouTube is very different than what we use Facebook for. And who uses those? Who's on Facebook? Who's on Twitter? Who's going to sit down for 30 minutes on YouTube? We really look at our target audience differently when we go through those different aspects. So we want to figure out, when we say social media, what exactly are we doing and what exactly is that platform? Because we can't just use the blanket, we're going to use social media. Let's really dive into it and really examine how each one interacts with the other one and use each one to its most effectiveness.